Mom's coming over. We're gonna have a nice visit, and I'll send her home with her own care package of savory baking. I made the pea meal, green bean, and cheese tart with the Parmesan crust. And I also made that giant loaf of Grandma's potato cheddar bread. Since I'm doing savory baking today, I thought I would do a Walnut Brie Strudel. And I know my mom is gonna love this. But before I get to that, wow! It doubled in size again. I wanna be pretty gentle with it now. I've got the oven preheated at 350, but now dock the top of it with a fork. That way any steam from the potatoes can escape. While it's not fresh from the oven but still warm, I want to brush it with melted butter. Alright, see you later. About 30 minutes. Well, I'm making a lot of dough today, certainly, but it's strudel dough right now. I have to melt butter first, 1/3 cup. I need 1 1/4 cups. Hot tap water. And even though I'm making a savory strudel, I have to add a bit of sugar. 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons. The melted butter goes in. For this recipe, you have to use bread flour. You need the protein content. And it's because I need to develop that elastic stretch so I can pull that strudel dough out. 4 cups. And 1/2 teaspoon of salt. It's time to turn this mess into a strudel dough. I have to mix for about 8 minutes, and it's going to completely transform. Now, it did the same thing. This dough did the same thing as the bread dough. It kind of clung to the bottom of the bowl and cleaned the sides. But it looks incredibly different. Look at that pull. It needs a good hour to just sit, chill out, and relax. By the time I go check it again, it'll have sort of relaxed and spread out a bit. But I do need to make the filling, which is really quite simple. Brie is the dominant flavor, but if I were to just put brie into the strudel and sprinkle it with walnuts, the brie would turn kind of oily and melt away, and it would probably not stay in the strudel. I use ricotta as the base. Ricotta holds its shape when you bake it, so I'll just stir the brie into the ricotta, and because ricotta is so mild, it doesn't impart any taste, just a nice texture. About a cup of that. I'll cut in 6 ounces of single cream brie, and I'm cutting it into pieces so there's a little bit of the rind on each piece. I'll add just a little bit of chopped chives for color and a hit of garlic. A little pepper. The brie itself lends enough saltiness. Don't need to add any more salt. And so it's lumpy and chunky, and that's exactly how it's supposed to be. There we go. So I've got walnuts, check, cheese filling, I've got my breadcrumbs, my melted butter, and I am ready to roll, literally. But I like to use a tablecloth to roll the strudel. I sprinkle it with flour, and the tablecloth will actually help me roll the strudel. So this is the dough after it's relaxed a little bit. This makes 3 strudels, so I'll cut 1/3 of the dough, and then just go to work. It just takes practice and getting a sense of what the dough feels like. Find it's pulling gently at the edges that's most important, as thin as you can. The rule is you should be able to read through a newspaper. If you've got it thin enough, not just the headlines, but the actual story. And I like to use the back of my hands, that way I don't accidentally tear it with a fingernail. Oh, see I put out a hole in there, but it's off to the side. If it's a big hole right in the middle, what I do is I continue stretching the dough, and then I cut a patch out of the dough and put it right over. No one would know. And now I actually want to flip this around and spoon on the butter. And just spread it with my hands. And now, generous sprinkling of dry breadcrumbs. And I'll take about 1/3 of this cheese filling and it will help weigh the strudel down. Nice mix. And a good sprinkling of toasted walnuts. As much as I've tried to stretch out the outer edges, it's a little thicker, and I don't want to be chewing on that in the middle of the strudel. I just grab a pair of scissors and trim it off. And so now, rolling the strudel, I let the tablecloth do the work. Whee! And now, same at this end. And there, that's a nice looking strudel. And I give it another final stretch just to make it evenly shaped. And the thicker ends, I trim off. And as the finishing touch, I'll brush the top with an egg wash. And then sprinkle generously with poppy seeds. After I finish the other two, I'll bake them at 375 for just under 30 minutes. Let them cool for a bit, and then Mom should be here by now.